Okay, I do want to talk about this because I feel like I talked about this a lot on Finstagram, but we're just gonna bring it here because yeah, it's so Cindy Evangelista. I think I spoke about this yesterday. So Cindy Evangelista is this is about Cindy Bruna, the supermodel, right? But here's the thing. Cindy Bruna is technically Italian and Congolese, but phonetically people call her black, right? But it's like being black in Latin America is not like being a black American. They call them like I've already talked about this. It's like that little chart of blackness that's based on colorism. It kind of goes back to like the Spanish conquistadors. It's really is unfortunate, but like that's where she comes from, right? And so basically, she writes this book that's about all the domestic violence that she experienced in Latin America and in her household specifically. Now, I'm not sure about this because the book is in Portuguese and I don't have the capacity to like translate and unpack right now. But she gave a couple like talks and Instagram posts about it. It was actually extremely sad. So what she did is she was in so she's in Brazil, right? And I guess she was giving a talk to like these group of young girls and they were all like domestic violence survivors. But these girls were very young. They were like 7 to 10. And she did this thing on Instagram and I'd never seen it. So she went like this. She was like and it was she didn't even speak. It was just like using these fingers, right? And so the fingers indicated like the way that you were raped or some shit. And I don't know what it was, but they all kept commenting and they knew exactly what she was talking about. She would go like this and people started writing the number one. She'd be like, and they all I was like watching and I was trying to understand, but it was all in Portuguese and they just kept doing the fingers and shit. And I was like, I don't know, like I can't. We will try to unpack the book. But she's gone around and done some book tours with whatever happened in the book. I don't know her story, but I've talked about this before, which is very unfortunate. Like the how can I say it? I don't like there's this term, right? It's like the Afro Latinas. They're like the black people of the Latin America. Many of them unfortunately look like me, but like I said, I'm not Latin American. I'm not Latinx or whatever you call it. Like I'm not that. But the no, I had a point to this. Oh, so I gave another talk about this with Jeff Duncan. So Jeff Duncan is like this researcher who works in he's like an educator who works in Oakland. Gave a whole talk about this. So what's happening in the schools in Oakland, East Oakland specifically, they're like segregated by race. So it's like all the black kids are going to one school and all the Latin kids are going to another school, and everybody's trying to figure out like why these kids aren't excelling academically and they're like not thriving, right? And so he gave all these talks about equity and it was like equality and equity and all this stuff, and he's basically trying to encourage public schools to become private schools. Like he wants public school kids to get the same level of education as private school kids. That's like what he's encouraging, which doesn't make any sense. Like the whole point of paying for private school is to get a better education because you have more money. That will always happen, and I don't know, but his whole concept is like take that away and make everything equal. It's like communism basically. Anyway, so his point though in the talk, which I will link the talk and I'll also link my unpacking of the talk, he literally starts talking about how in the Latin American communities people aren't thriving because of the female children. Well, really all the children. I don't know. I don't want to like speak on shit that I don't fully understand. But it was basically like all the domestic violence happening at home is the reason that the kids can't do homework, they can't eat, they can't thrive. Like the fathers are beating the mothers, the fathers are raping the daughters, the like all the shit. He like the talk is like 2 hours, like so you could just listen to the talk and hear him rant on about all this like trauma porn. It's all this shit. Like those kids aren't having childhoods. They're like it's like I mean brothers, uncles, all the crimes are crazy, and they're happening here. Like they're happening like right in Oakland. And that's the weird part about it. I mean, he gave this talk, and you would think people in the community would stand up and be like, let's fix it. Nobody said anything. Everybody just keeps going to school and they're like, America will fix it. Like, bro, this is happening. This is their community and they keep coming. They just keep there's so many of them. Everybody keeps coming and they keep doing it. Like the men aren't changing their behavior. they just keep going. They keep raping, they keep beating, all the shit, and then the women just keep growing up and being awful and fat and ugly, and we just keep watching, and they just produce more and more of them. Like I don't want to work with them or befriend them or like live in communities with them or have any shared experiences. This is why I continue to separate myself and do some like extremely black shit and be like, I am an African from Africa. Like I don't speak Spanish. Like I had to like say it in all the ways. Like, and it doesn't translate. They keep saying to you, they'll be like, people of color. Like that's not my fucking story. I don't know. Anyway, so that was my very short. I wrote down Cindy Evangelista because there was so much that I wanted to say about that because the book, man, I'm actually really excited to read the book, but I'm gonna have to translate the book. I'm gonna have to find the audible version of the book, just all the shit. And I don't have like that much time. I actually have a job, so I can't talk about this shit all day.